most precious, sweetest that ever was heard. Tell how the angels in chorus sang as they welcomed his birth. Glory to God in the highest, peace and good tidings to earth. Tell me the story of Jesus.
Hello, and welcome to another case for the detectives. Today we are going to investigate case number 4, which we are calling The Listening Wind. And as we listen to the facts of the story, we're going to ask ourselves the question, how did he do that? In our imagination, we have to go back to the land of Judea over 2,000 years ago, a land that was very dry and dusty, where you had to walk everywhere if you didn't have a donkey, and where you got very tired with all your walking. I want to tell you once again a story about the most wonderful man who ever lived. His name was Jesus. An angel told his mother what name to call him when he was born. He was born in Bethlehem over 2,000 years ago. We don't know what he looked like. Some people think he had blonde hair and blue eyes, but as he was born in Judea, and as his mother was Jewish, it is more likely that he looked like this man, with dark hair and darker skin and dark eyes. Although he was born in Bethlehem, he was brought up in the village of Nazareth, and his stepfather Joseph was a carpenter. And like all Jewish boys, he would have been taught by his father how to become what his father was, a carpenter, so that when he grew up, he could look after himself and earn some money. But when Jesus of Nazareth grew up, he became a teacher. And he began to teach people about God. You see, Jesus of Nazareth had a secret that not many people knew about, except his mother, of course. And mothers, unfortunately, know all our secrets, don't they? People love to hear him preach and love to hear him teach. And they crowded around him wherever he was because he had this secret. And what was this secret? We'll find out in a minute. On this particular day, he has been teaching them, and he decides he wants to go to the other side of the lake. So he borrows a boat, and his disciples of people who loved him and followed him and helped him, row him over the lake to the other side. It was a beautiful, peaceful evening, and the lake was calm and still. But Jesus fell asleep at the bottom of the boat. He may very well have been tired, but he wasn't a sailor like the others anyway. He wasn't a fisherman like the others. So he let them row the boat over the lake, and he was fast asleep. But suddenly a storm came. The rain began hammering down, and still Jesus slept. The wind began to pick up and to howl around the boat, and the waves got bigger and bigger and were crashing into the boat, and the fishermen were afraid. Now that is surprising, because fishermen were used to storms, but this was a storm like they had never seen before, and they were afraid that they were going to end up at the bottom of the lake, because the more water came into the boat, no matter how much they tried to bail out the water, they knew that if too much water came into the boat would sink, and they would sink with it. But where was Jesus? They began to ask themselves, where is Jesus? Can you remember where he was? Yes, you are right. He is still asleep at the bottom of the boat. He is peaceful, and everything is calm with him. But his disciples come and wake him up. Don't you care that we're about to drown? Don't you even know? Aren't you afraid? Don't you care that we are going to perish? Well, what a thing to say to Jesus. He always cared about other people. He never cared about himself. Instantly he got up and he went to the front of the boat and he stood there and he listened to the howling wind and the crashing waves and he felt the rain sting in his face. And then he lifted up his arms and he told the wind off. He scolded it, just like your mother or father or carer would scold you if you did something wrong. And he said to the storm and to the wind and to the waves and to the rain, "Be still." Well, what he really said was, "Close your mouth." The sort of thing you would say to a dog that was barking mad. What a thing to say to a storm. And then he watched. And the disciples watched, amazed. And suddenly, not gradually, but suddenly, the wind dropped. The waves settled back. The rain stopped. And it was a beautiful evening again. And the disciples say to themselves, "How did he do that? How is it possible for him to speak to the wind and the waves and the rain, and for the wind and the waves and the rain to obey him?" It's one thing to tell people what to do. It's another thing to tell animals what to do, like your dog or your cat. But to speak to the wind and the waves and the rain? How did he do that? And here is his secret. That although Jesus was born as a man and was a real man, he was also God. The angel had come to his mother and said, "The child that you are bearing is the Son of God." He had the ability to do these things. He had made the wind and the waves and the rain. So when he told them off and told them to be quiet, they listened. And everything was still. Do you know what happened after that? The disciples were even more scared. They were more scared of Jesus now than they were of the storm. Because they said to themselves, "What sort of man is this, that even the wind and the waves obey him?" And why did they obey him? Remember, it's because Jesus is and was God. And God can do anything he wants to. And everything should listen to him, even the wind and the waves and the storm. And so should we. And when Jesus tells us to do something, or when he tells us something is going to happen, we should listen to him, just as the listening wind listened to him. Because Jesus is God. I believe that he's God. I hope you do too.
Fasting alone in the desert, tell of the days that are past, how for our sins he was tempted, yet was triumphant at last. Tell of the years of his labor, tell of the sorrow he bore. He was despised and afflicted, homeless, rejected, and poor. Tell me the story of Jesus. Write on my heart every word. Tell me the story most precious, sweetest that ever was heard. Tell of the cross where they nailed him, writhing in anguish and pain. Tell of the grave where they laid him. Tell how he liveth again. Love in that story so tender, clearer than ever I see. Say, let me weep while you whisper, love paid the ransom for me. Tell me the story of Jesus. Write on my heart every word. Tell me the story most precious, sweetest that ever